Hi. Okay, so this is for my final for my digital rhetoric class. And what I was given was the to produce something that's my take on the digital. And I don't really know what I think the digital is. Um, when I think of the digital, or when people want to talk to me about it, or when I sit in a lecture for class, it all usually has to do with the same thing, like that the internet connects us all. It makes it like stabs us in the back. Um, it can manipulate us. It we shouldn't use it all the time. Like our world shouldn't revolve around it, or our world should revolve around it. There's all these different things. So I mean, what like the digital means to me is more so of like it's more contradictory than anything else, and I don't know how to put my finger on it exactly as to what it is or what it means for anything. I know that it connects us all and that it's definitely going to connect us all forever, and it's that's something that people need to like look at and study and know the basic grounds of it. So at the beginning of my digital rhetoric class, we talked about like what is the internet and like putting our finger on it, and it's these physical like wire cable things that go from like continent to continent. And I didn't think of it like that before. I just thought it was this imaginary thing. I didn't research it and look into it. And I feel that if people looked at it and researched it and knew that like there was all these things and it's all connected and it's a physical object, we can go to the internet in this building somewhere and just stand there and like I don't know, see some boxes and some cables all going into each other, and like it's like a transformer type thing. Crazy stuff. I don't think people realize that. I think that they think that their computer or their phone is the internet. Like that's their physical connection to the internet. And I don't know if that's really true. Um, like that's our connection to the internet, but it's not really, because the internet's a different physical thing. So I don't know how to go about like wrapping my head around that idea. Um, so what I did for my final project is I did uh, makeup tutorials and self-help tutorials, and basically just was like, hey, this is what I do. Like, let's hope that these things help you as well. And I don't know if I touched anyone. I spread it on my Facebook and had my best friend from high school's mom commenting on them, telling me like, these are things to help you with. And it was just kind of funny that yes, I'm an hour and a half away from her, and I don't talk to her son anymore because they graduated, and I'm not connected to those people so much, but they're still connected to me, and they will still help me on my like college assignments, which is crazy to think about. And so that project, but it also like there's a girl I follow on Instagram. Well, it started with YouTube. When I was younger, I would watch makeup tutorials. And I watched this girl, her name's Bubs, like BuzzFeed, or not BuzzFeed, but like Bubs, Bubz. And she did makeup tutorials. So I loved watching her makeup tutorials, and I followed her on Instagram. And it turned from like makeup tutorials into like self help to like blogging into like, because she had babies. So now it's mother stuff that moms can look at. And it's just kind of interesting to see that trend. But what her purpose is to help people. So the internet connects us all, and we can use it to help each other and get messages across. And like, if I want someone in Russia to hear my opinion on what their government is, they have access to that. They have access, well, I don't know if they have access because their government regulates. So that's a hard thing. But we're still connected. There's a way that they can get around the government and someone watching the gatekeeper. You could consider the government as a gatekeeper in other countries. And I don't know if that's such a good thing. Like, yes, we need someone to regulate what we see on the internet because knowing everything is bad. But is it? I mean, it's a really hard thing to argue. It's a big conflict because, if we have all this access, we can like yell at each other and babble and fight. And maybe that's the problem that that's why we're having so many of the issues that we're having, is because we're butting heads, because we have so much unlimited access to all this information because we don't have someone regulating it. But if someone regulates it, who's to say they're going to regulate it too much, and we're not going to know anything, and we're not going to live full, happy lives? I mean, we could, but are they really happy lives? Because someone's controlling it and controlling what we can see, and that's like a personal issue, ethical issue, I feel like, almost even. So yeah, I don't know if that's okay. So, but those projects are connecting women. Like the makeup tutorials connect women that want to, people that don't know how to put on makeup, people that do know how to put on makeup, people that I don't know what this is, let's click on it kind of people. So, but it's connecting them through the medium that we're using, which is YouTube, and through the medium of makeup. So when Marshall McLuhan says that the medium is the message, I completely 100% agree with him, because it's the way that people get their messages out there. Yes, maybe I'm making this video because of this, but that's not the message. The message is I'm using makeup and I'm using technology, and I want to reach someone that's 4 countries away from me and 18, over 24 hours away from me, 4 hours, 4 days away from me, and I want them to know that that's how I'm reaching them, and that's how they're getting it, and they're using that tool to help themselves. So it's definitely the message. And then to bounce back on that, when we go to an art museum, we look at what the art is, and that's what portrays the message the most. So if you use oil on a canvas, an oil painting, it's a lot different feel. It's more smooth and flowy and kind of darker, whereas if you use acrylic, it's brighter, it's harsh, it's very to the point. So it's definitely the medium that gives you the message. And so that, along with the where is it at? So then when we put all of these things online and we use the internet, we have corporations and people or companies that don't have just one person behind them, that are multiple people making a personality of that. So I just got an internship, in my interview for my internship, we were talking about how because when we're an online platform through social media, each of the franchises has their own kind of a feel for on their social medias because they run them. But the corporate office has their, how they want to portray themselves on the internet, and they have to umbrella that over all their franchises. So everyone has the same common feel when they go online. If a customer goes online, they get the same feel anywhere they go. So, but it's a person-to-person type thing. So they want all of their reviews to be very personal. They want all of their posts on social media to be personal. They want them to feel like it's a person, so that way each individual customer feels like it is dedicated to them and them solely. So when you put all of these corporations in big things like Wendy's and McDonald's, and they're battling and they're saltiness online, that is smart and strategic in marketing. That it's marketing in the best sense, because it sells your brand and it puts a name on your brand and a stamp, this is who I am for the people, I am a person, and I'm gonna make someone like me. And so and people couldn't do that back then because it was it was face-to-face contact. Yeah, you could have a brand, but every person's different on face-to-face. If through online, everyone can be the same person because you're pretending. It's separate from your, I want to say it's almost separate from your soul, but I don't know if that's too deep. But it's separate from your morals. When you're online, there's a disconnect between reality and that. And I don't know if the digital realm is a reality itself. or is it not real? I feel like it could be real, but I feel like this life is also real. Like they're two different worlds and we don't know how to bring them together. Like some people do, like us in our class, we're learning how to like work with it and manage it and separate or like to connect the two, because you have to connect it in order to survive and function and get the best out of life pretty much. But some people don't know how to separate that, so their morals online are different than their morals in person. So that is what the problem can be sometimes. So it's easy for those corporations to be like, hey, this is how we're gonna like spread our information online, whereas before they couldn't make someone like, they couldn't change the actual morals of that person, because face-to-face contact morals are totally different than face-to-online morals. And there's not many studies out there for that, so I guess you can't really say, but it would have to do with the what is it called? It's like Pinker's ways of like weapons of influence. That's what it is. Pinker. It's weapons of influence, and the way that Pinker uses his weapons of influence. So let me tell you what those weapons of influence are before we do that. So actually, it's not Pinker, it's Cialdini. Cialdini uses weapons of influence. And those weapons of influence are reciprocation, commitment, consistency, social proof, liking, authority, scarcity, and yeah, so it's those 6. So I'll say it again. Reciprocity, commitment, consistency, social proof, liking, authority, and scarcity. So I feel that these apply to in-person and online. So when people gang up online and fight against a common cause and there's another person fighting them online, that's a commitment consistency. So if you see that someone has the same attitude as you do, you're going to commit to that group because they have the same basic ideals. Yeah, they might sway a little more this way or this way than you do, but you're going to stay with them because their basic ideals are the same as yours and you have that commitment to them. You've made that commitment and you can't turn your back, because as soon as you turn your back online, they're just going to attack you. So you don't want to do that. And it goes with liking and authority also. Everybody online has an authority. Everyone has that, like, hey, I'm in charge here. There's not just like, oh yeah, I'm in charge and you guys are all below me. Everyone can be in charge. And everyone can start their own group. And everyone can do anything that they want to do, which makes it very, very, very hard. So I guess if everyone makes it hard, then why? I don't know. If we have all of these groups and all these people battling it out, and then these corporations that are like, hi, I'm a person, and it's so much. There's not just one way to look at it, or 2 ways to look at it even. There's multitudes of ways to look at it. So it just goes on that mob mentality that we have. And it goes back to what I was talking about before, that we're all connected. And so when Gladwell says that we're connected and that things can spread fast, that it can. But there's also a disconnect because we live in America, we have there's like a digital divide. When we live in America, we're at the peak internet. But there's other populations over in like Brazil that don't have peak internet and they don't have that connection that we do. They're connected, but a lot less than we are, and yet we don't notice that over here because we just assume everyone's connected, and they're not yet. I think this goes back to the world is huge and we don't know about it. It's so huge and there's so much like land available and life that is on this planet that when we're all connected, but we're not actually connected. we are, it's getting there. There's still people that aren't, and people that have no idea what's going on. So I guess that's, I don't know. So if it's hard to wrap your head around and to make it all put together. And I think that's what was hardest for me in this class, was wrapping my head around all of the ideas and all of the things that were going on. And so, I don't know. I like to think of it as we're growing, but people, I feel like, are taking the internet, and our morals are getting more and more and more displaced. Not our true morals, but maybe that is our true morals, because what's being displaced, is it just like our disconnect between how we're connected but not actually connected, in the disconnect between, is this corporation a person, or is this corporation, or is this person like a corporation of lots of different people? And is it like, am I connected to that person in that third world country, or do they have no idea what's going on over here in America, when everyone's like, this political polarization is killing everybody? And so like, there's all of this of unknown that really makes you want to think. And so when we bring in the ship of Theseus and all of those theoretical things, they can all be applied to the digital realm. And so maybe that makes it more real and more of its own world, because all of these theoretical philosophers and philosophies and deep stuff that has messages to it, that was originally applied to like us in like this physical world, that maybe that the internet in the digital world is a different place, because those theories can apply to it. Because I don't think it's the same thing. If it was all the same thing, our morals wouldn't be divided, and they would be the same all the way through. But people can go online and do things that they wouldn't do in real life, or they wouldn't think that they would do in real life, I guess. So maybe it just brings out our real self. And these are all things that like I struggle with in trying to talk it out, because this is how I feel about the digital. It's just a bunch of unknown things and all these questions, and you can't really put your finger on it type topics. So I guess to finish it off, to answer the question of how it impacts on human life, everything that I said, it's separating our morals. Our morals are changing, and it's making us different. So I literally just typed in Google, I said, what does it mean to be a human today? And the first thing that popped up was, part of what it means to be human is how we became human. Over a long period of time, as early humans adapted to a changing world, they evolved certain characteristics that help define our species today. So I guess with that definition, we are human still. So humanity's not changing, because humanity changes. That's why we're called humans, because we change and we adapt. So I don't think humanity's changing in that sense, because we're adapting to a new way of life. We're adapting to the digital realm, and millennials are the ones that birth the digital realm. They're the ones that are teaching everybody, and then the ones below us, the generations after us, are learning even more rapidly and teaching more people. And so I don't know how to feel about that, because I don't know, if we're constantly changing and there's never this is what I am. So this goes back to like the ship of Theseus. Like, if we're always changing and there's no like solid, like, this is who I am forever and I'm not going to ever change, or I'm always changing, so I'm not the same person that I was 5 seconds ago, then I guess humanity isn't changing, right? Which is really weird, because like, humanity isn't changing, but everything else is changing. And because everything is changing, that makes us a human. I don't know if that makes sense, and I hope it does. But So another definition that I found for what it means to be human is really to discover who I am. To discover who I am is to discover also the unity between my head and my heart. It is to let down the barriers, to open up and discover that every person is beautiful. So I guess then humanity is changing in the digital realm. Because in the digital realm, we're not looking for everything to be beautiful. We're looking for a group to mob up and look at the bad in another group or the bad in something and defute it with all of our being. So then we're not human. We're changing. Humanity is definitely changing and being impacted. And so then science is going to have to change because science is really on Psychology Today, they were talking about how we can't turn to science for an answer as to what makes a human because there's battles between biologists as to what makes a human. And so, yeah, I guess we're all the same, but if a biologist that studies life can't tell us why we're human or what makes a human, then can we even say what a human is or how the digital realm is making or is creating humans? I guess what it would mean to be human today would mean nothing different than it would 50 years ago or 100 years ago or 1,000 years ago, because we're still at their basic core, we're still the same. But when you incorporate the digital realm, there was always things that were changing and things that were coming to us, and we're just evolving to it. So I guess to just keep evolving would make us humans. And I don't think we'll ever stop evolving because that's what we'll do. When we're giving a task, we'll handle it accordingly and follow through to the best of our abilities because that is what makes us human. So I don't know if that answers that question. I feel like I was rambling a lot, but I hope it was. So where were we going from here? So I feel like we're going to end up in nuclear war sometimes. I feel like nobody really listens to other people. There's this really big political polarization that feeds from the digital realm. People are seriously that is all the digital realm is feeding to people is fake news fake news that Russians are creating and political polarization. It's getting us in these echo chambers that we're not going to be able to get out of. And so I don't know where we're headed. It's very hard to find out, and it's very hard to know. And us as humans, we're just going to keep changing, and we're going to keep evolving, and we're going to find a task, confront that task, and defeat it, because that is what we do. And so I hope that answers all the questions. It's really hard to put your finger on a lot of these things. And my head spins every time I try to defute it. And this last week, I've been trying to think it through and figure it out and how to answer all of these questions for this project. But I don't have any answers. I have lots of questions. And I don't know if that's allowed or if that's okay. But that is the struggle, and that is where we're at, I think, as humanity right now. That's what I would say to make us humans is we question and we find answers. Or we don't find answers and we just keep questioning until we get an answer. But we have to start with questions, and that's where I'm starting with this project. This class made me think, and it made me want to figure out more about the digital, and it just left me with questions, which is just the beginning. So yeah, I guess that's all I had to say.